Hey guys, so I recently watched the critically acclaimed movie Past Lives by A24 Production Studio and directed by Celine Song. I thought it was really good, so I wanted to share my thoughts with you guys about it. So, a little bit about the synopsis of the movie. So it follows Nora, who's eventually played by Greta. This is a young Nora, and Hae Sung, this is a young Hae Sung, eventually played by T.O.U, who are childhood sweethearts in South Korea. But eventually they get separated when, as a child, Nora and her family relocate and move to Toronto, Canada from South Korea to start a new life. So fast forward 12 years later, Nora is now pursuing a writing profession in New York City, and Hae Sung just finished mandatory military service in South Korea. So due to a chance encounter, they're able to reconnect via Facebook, and they embark on this long-distance relationship that mainly takes place over Skype until Nora decides to put a stop to it. She just wants to focus on her life in New York, and just based on their circumstances and stages in their lives, like meeting up and pursuing an in-person relationship doesn't seem likely at that point. So during this time apart, Nora actually goes on a writer's retreat, and she meets her future husband Arthur. Hae Sung moves to China to study the Chinese language, and he also meets a girlfriend there. So basically they're kind of at this point doing their own thing. So then fast forward another 12 years later, Hae Sung is now newly single, fresh out of his relationship, and Nora, of course, is married to Arthur. Hae Sung decides to make a trip out to New York so he can finally meet Nora in person as an adult. Because keep in mind, at this point, they've only ever talked over Skype as adults, and then they've only met in person as children. So obviously, complexity is going to ensue because Nora is now married, and Hae Sung is still grappling with feelings for her. So yeah, things get a little complicated. So all in all, I really enjoyed this movie. I cannot believe this is Celine Song's directorial debut. The cinematography was beautiful, and I felt like everybody had really good on-screen chemistry with each other, and all the acting was very natural and effortless. And I didn't know much about Greta before this movie, so I'm excited to see more of her work, and I'm also excited to see Celine Song's future directorial work as well. And this movie just really got me thinking, really tapping into my introspective side, and just thinking about how all the little choices that we make in life can have a direct impact on the course or the path of life that we embark on. And just the concept of fate and what ifs and near misses, it kind of reminded me of this 90s movie called Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow, which is also really good. And that movie got me kind of thinking about similar themes. Okay, don't come for me, but initially I didn't really like Nora's character. And the reason being, I felt like she was kind of stringing Hae Sung along. And the reason is there was an earlier sequence in the movie where Nora's mom sets Hae Sung and Nora up on this childhood playdate, and Nora's mom remarks to Hae Sung's mom that she did this so that Nora could have some good memories. And she did that knowing that they were going to be picking up everything and moving to Toronto very shortly after. And it was heartbreaking to see Hae Sung as a kid being heartbroken, that Nora was just kind of very abruptly getting up and leaving him after he started to invest emotions in her. And she didn't really seem to reciprocate that. She seemed to be kind of cold towards him. And I felt like she kind of instigated their whole long distance relationship, reaching out to him over Facebook, having this back and forth video chat thing, only to kind of coldly discard him one day because she wanted to focus on herself. And there was another scene where she mentioned she reached out to him when she and Arthur, after marriage, were visiting Korea. So it kind of seemed like she was creating a lot of situations where she would string him along and leave him heartbroken. But as the movie progressed, this idea changed because I started to realize that maybe Hae Sung wasn't actually in love with Nora. He was in love with this idealized vision of her that he had as a child, because he only really knew her as a child and not really as an adult. And I think a lot of his pursuit of her was motivated by this curiosity of what could have been if this romance had panned out. So to me, like, as the movie progressed, it kind of seemed like less likely that he was actually that much in love with her. It was more like curiosity. Also, I think Nora really hit the nail on the head in the bar scene, which is probably the best scene in this movie, where she tells Hae Sung that they were just not meant to be in this lifetime. And I think that gave him closure and allowed him to fully move on. Okay, but can we give Arthur, her husband, some props? The fact that he is so patient, so understanding, as Nora, his wife, goes on these day trips with her childhood sweetheart, Hae Sung. And in the bar scene where they're just having this prolonged moment conversing in Korean while he's clearly an outsider and being excluded. That just goes to show that he's so patient, understanding, and such a loving husband. I'm not sure I would be able to do all of that, to be honest. Okay, so if you know me, you know I love reading about trivia and facts about the movie after watching. So I thought it was really interesting that a lot of these events were inspired by Celine Song's real life. So for example, that scene where she's in the bar sandwiched between her husband and her childhood sweetheart, that's something that actually happened in her life, which is pretty crazy. Also, she had the actors perform certain exercises to help them with their scenes. For example, Greta and Teo, they were not supposed to have any physical contact prior to their first encounter, their scene where they first encounter each other. Same thing with Teo and the actor who played Arthur, they were not supposed to have any like physical in-person contact before their scene. And I think that really helps drive more realism to their performance. And you could definitely see it in those scenes. Also, I did not know that Teo was actually fluent in English. His performance was so on point of Hae Sung as being someone with limited knowledge of English. He's actually fluent in 4 languages, so he's a very talented actor. And also, it just brings me such joy to see more Asian representation on screen, so I really love that about this movie. But yeah, all in all, a really great movie and got me thinking afterwards. I love to know your guys' thoughts and if you enjoyed it, but thanks for watching.